Greetings from Kenwa. Today is Sunday, June the 8th, 2025. The year is 1975. It's hard for me to imagine that this is 50 years ago now. This coming October 10th is going to be the 50th anniversary of my first date with Darlene, the love of my life. I guarantee you that I'm going to do something very special for her on this October the 10th. But please don't tell her. It was also in 1975 when a friend of mine named Dave went from here in Hamilton to attend a one-week Christian conference in Winnipeg. And it went from Monday to Friday. Dave was really excited about going, but he never realized how going to this conference was going to totally change the direction of his life. On the very first day of the conference, Dave met this young woman named Anne. From the very first moment he talked to her, he was totally infatuated. They were together nonstop for the entire week, of course, except at nighttime, since they slept together in different rooms, as Dave, as an entire life, always honored God. On the Friday, as they departed, Dave said to Anne, "Anne, I'm going to marry you." Anne replied, "Well, Dave, I like you a whole lot, but we have only known each other for 1 week." I love what Dave says next. He said, "I don't care if it takes 5 years. All I know is that I'm going to marry you." Well, Anne goes back to her hometown of Vancouver, and Dave comes back here to Hamilton. Every night, Dave called Anne and talked to her for probably an hour each time. And you have to remember that back in 1975, there was no such thing as a long-distance phone package. And for sure, Dave spent a whole lot of money on these calls. After a number of months, Dave flew out to Vancouver to see Anne. I like to say that he went out to court her. After a short time of being there, Dave got down on one knee and asked Anne to marry him. Anne said yes. Then one night, Dave was over at Anne's house, and Anne just happened to find her old diary. As she is flipping through it, she chuckles and said to Dave that he is mentioned in her diary. Anne goes on to say that a number of years ago, her grandmother told her to start praying that God would lead her to the man of his choice. Anne laughed and said that he must be the answer to her prayer. Dave asks her if he could look at the diary. Dave says to Anne, "This is incredible. That is the same night when I went to a Billy Graham crusade and I committed my life to Jesus Christ." I like to say it like this. In heaven, God calls over Gabriel and says, "Gabriel, yeah, see that woman named Anne down there? She has just prayed that I will lead her to the husband of my choice. Now look over to that guy right there named Dave. Dave has just committed his life to me, and in a short time from now, I'm going to lead the two together." Now, don't you have to admit that this is a pretty good story about prayer? And for all you single people, I highly recommend that you immediately start praying that God will lead you to your future spouse. He will not disappoint you. In fact, God does indeed answer all of our prayers. For example, if you pray that God will allow you to win the lottery, he will indeed answer your prayer. So has that what I just said perked up your ears just a little bit? It is true that God will answer your prayer to win the lottery, but it will be a resounding no. The prayer of winning the lottery is nothing but a prayer of absolute greed. I love what President Jimmy Carter, what he said about prayer. He said, God has always these answers. Sometimes it's a yes. Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes it's, "You gotta be kidding." I want you to think about this. Christianity is not a religion. Religion is humans trying to work their way to God. Christianity is God coming to men and women through a relationship with Jesus. For Christianity, it is a personal relationship with Jesus. John 1 verse 12 tells us, But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name. Every Christian is a child of God. The long-term goal for every Christian is to become a prayer warrior. This is someone who actively and consistently prays. This is a person who dedicates time to prayer, not just for themselves, but for others, and who may feel free to pray firmly for specific needs or situations of others. I love what it says in 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 16, verse 18. Be joyful always. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. As it states here, God's will for us is to, number one, be joyful. There have been times in my life when I've been walking along the streets of downtown Toronto and someone has stopped me and said, "You are the happiest person I have ever met." And then for praying continually, I honestly pray all throughout the day. I can be driving when something comes to my mind and I will pray for it or for someone. I can also be walking along and I will pray, whatever pops into my head. Sometimes I have done this out loud as I'm walking along, and I do indeed have some interesting looks for people. Give thanks in all circumstances. When I had tongue cancer and didn't know whether I would make it through this, I always thank God for my life. Wherever you are, and whatever you are doing, take a little bit of time and pray. It truly is God's will for you to do so. Now, in closing, I'm going to leave you with this marvelous little clip from the 1986 movie called Miracles. I have called this clip, "People Pray, God Answers." May the good Lord be with you until we meet again.